up, guys? It's Confessions of a Doctorholic with Hafsa Slayman. And everyone has their struggles. And some of us, even here in medical school, some students have ADHD. So I've got the orchestral conductor, Christos, and he's going to tell us all about how he deals with ADHD in medical school. Tune in!
Alright, so this topic I've been excited about for ages. And let me tell you, Christos here is super cool, except he can't even stay focused and record into the mic. He keeps jiggling around.
Yeah, I'm moving around there, okay.
So I heard that you have ADHD.
Yes, well, I was told at school that this is what I have. It was something that I dealt with during school, specifically high school. It's fairly difficult even now, but I've learned to handle it and work with it.
Okay, what is ADHD?
Okay, so ADHD, from what I've seen, because we have a lot of access now to the internet, it's a spectrum disorder, mental disorder in inverted commas, where people, they're hyperactive, don't have impulse control, are disorganized, fluctuate a little bit in their moods, and generally can't keep structure in routine and in when they're studying and working, etc., things like that.
And you mentioned you were told this at school.
Yes, reflecting on it, because I do have it, I've had to come up with ways that I deal with it. Often they'll say to you, take this, take that medication, and this is what you have to do. But I try to find other ways to deal with it because they don't want to take medication. I think generally that the schooling system is so confined to a very specific type of child that it's very easy to say that anyone who has some type of difference is ADD.
So why did they diagnose you with ADHD? Were you hyperactive?
I was hyperactive. I wasn't very organized. Time management, talking in class, things like that. I was always the front row of the class, things like that. So, and obviously you go and do assessments and they will come up with a diagnosis.
And how did it feel when they diagnosed you?
Look, when you're a child or even adolescent, you don't really think about it as anything severe. You think, okay, well, these bunch of adults and bunch of this institution has told me this is what I have. I don't think I have that.
Oh, okay.
Especially as a young adult, you don't, you're like, oh, whatever, that's cool. I'll carry on with what I'm doing. You do feel different because you think, okay, well, what does that mean? But to be honest, it didn't bother me that much.
Okay, so you kind of made it sound like it was a bit of a challenge. How did ADHD affect your life?
I think this is one of the reasons I want to talk about that. I think we tend to exaggerate the effect it has on people's lives a little bit, and I think we overdiagnose it. So the effect is there in terms of me having to be a lot more diligent in my studies and a lot more diligent in managing my time, in managing my routines. I have to, before I start something, say to myself, right, you have to sit down and complete this task in this amount of time, because it's very, very easy to not. Immediately I can get distracted by anything. To sit down is difficult, or to concentrate at a lecture, very difficult. And you try and explain this to someone and it's like, oh no, but you just sit and listen. I say, I cannot understand exactly, it's not the same.
To be completely honest, some of those lectures are pretty boring.
Lectures are boring, yeah.
I know that you do a bunch of different extracurriculars. Has that helped you with your ADHD in terms of discipline or keeping you into the task?
As I was saying a little bit before, the system of school is very specific. It's a very specific structure, caters to a very specific type of child. If you don't fit within that framework, you're told you are different, and so because of that, you have ADD and you must take this and that. But there are definitely other ways to manage that, because it's not so much that the child may have ADD, it's so much that maybe they're a little bit more creative, or they experience things in a different way, but we don't cater to those type of children. In terms of extracurricular, how I managed is I started playing piano, which led me to studying music. I started learning martial arts. Martial arts is fantastic for that type of thing, because specifically the Eastern martial arts are all about discipline and self-control and directing your impulse, and even that impulsivity that comes out a lot with ADD, that you just want to shout out or get up and leave and not study. That discipline in the martial arts teaches you to control the impulsivity, which is often, I think, a big part in the control of ADD.
So with martial arts, is it because you're so exhausted after performing martial arts? Is that why you can then sit down and study?
No, not at all. It's not so much about the exercise itself, because you can go and do gym, you can go and run on a treadmill. Okay, so it's not so much the exercise, it's the philosophy behind, specifically the martial arts I did was based on Shaolin Kung Fu, and that's Zen Buddhism. So it's the idea of mastering the self through movement, through the martial arts, through the art form. And that's the discipline that comes into managing yourself. because I think that's the best way to teach someone with ADD to control their life, control how they act, recognize the symptoms and the differences, but you're not different. It's not going to impact if you learn how to manage it. I think it's very easy to just take a medication and say, okay, I'm on this and so it will help. But it's really about changing yourself and understanding those types of things. And martial arts played a big role for me, and I think it can for others.
And have you ever been on medications for ADHD?
I was on medications, I didn't like them. I just didn't like the side effects. I've seen what it's done to other people in my life long term. So 100%, if needed, take it. That's not what I'm advocating, that you must now not take it. Not at all. But personally, I just couldn't deal with the side effects.
What were the side effects that you felt?
Because I had also a lot of anxiety during school and high school, even in my first degree, the side effects of something like Ritalin or Concerta, which is the trade name in South Africa, would often increase my anxiety levels. So I had insomnia, I had heightened anxiety. I could feel that I could focus more, but because of the anxiety, the quality of the work I was doing wasn't that good.
Do you have any specific way to study? So, like, do you, like, say, study for 60 minutes and take, like, an hour off afterwards? Or, I don't know, do you have, like, any special ways of studying?
This is the challenge, is actually finding the way. And I coming to the medical school, coming to our system specifically, which is very... It's an intense system and a lot of managing your own work and time.
Yeah.
I've really had to adjust because it's not curriculum based. It's not like a lecturer will stand up and cover curriculum and say this is A, B, C, D, what's going to be here and there. You're moving case by case. So you really have to, first of all, know where you're getting your information from. In terms of time, you have to say, right, set out your schedule before, make sure you know what you're going to do the next day. Say an hour for this, an hour for that, or an hour and a half. You study, make your mind maps, and then you take your 5 or 10 minute break.
Technology these days has had a huge impact on how we study, in terms of videos, in terms of questions, in terms of access to so many different resources. Do you reckon technology can help students with ADHD, or has it had an impact on you personally?
Well, look, I mean, my education at school, I didn't use much technology, to be honest. Of course, at universities and things, technology can be used. It's amazing to watch the videos. You instead of looking at a textbook for an hour, you watch a 3-minute video. You know how the kidney works, so it's great. But in terms of managing ADD, I think it often can be harmful to children and families because children become obsessed with it. We have this idea that it's kind of separate from us, it's technology we can manage, but it's become quite a serious problem because 8 hours a day a child will sit on a phone. And then you ask them to sit in a classroom to learn something and they're completely distracted and the teacher will say, oh, but they're ADD, but it's not really ADD. So I think technology can be used in both ways, and my mom's a therapist, and she finds a lot of the time that minimizing technology for younger children and early adolescents actually makes it better, actually helps managing the symptoms of ADD.
Okay, and are you on a special diet?
Not particularly, but definitely when I eat certain things, I know that I cannot focus the next day.
Like what?
Oh my word, all the things we know we shouldn't be having, like
chocolate
and coffee and sugar and sweets. And it's quite interesting to see how in our medical school right now, how integrated everything's become. It's not so much that the individual is just a physiological thing, it's now psychology and sociology, and all of these things will play a role in how we think about things like diet and things like that.
All right, Christos, if you have a message to send all of the fans out there who have ADHD or who know someone with the ADHD, what would you say?
Right. Don't let it stop you, okay? It doesn't need to stop you. Manage it, manage your time, manage the symptoms that you have, and don't forget you can do anything that you want to do with it. Don't let that diagnosis stop you becoming what you want to be. I went to music school, I went into science, and now I'm in med school. It's been my dream, and you can, and you will do it.
Amazing.
Don't give up. Yeah.
Couldn't have said it any better.
So
I've got one final question for you. If we had a fight, how long will it take you to flatten me?
I did martial arts, I did kung fu. I wouldn't even need to touch you.
Oh, what? Do you have that master Shifu technique? From Kung Fu, like you just
100%.
touch. Oh,
100%.
what?
That's why I need to be careful. I don't want to sit too close to you, actually.
Oh, man. I want to see this afterwards.
I'll show you. I'll demonstrate on the engineering guy.